CBS's hit sitcom The Big Bang Theory delights in poking fun at its male characters for their fanboy obsessions with comic books, video games, and
Dungeons and Dragons!
Often, the punchlines aren't really jokes per se. Instead, laughs are derived by simply referencing something that sounds vaguely nerdy.
Did you just shut the TV off in the middle of the classic Deep Space Nine Star Trek The Original Series Trouble with Tribble's crossover episode?
Leonard, Sheldon, Howard, and Raj all lack most of the traits traditionally associated with leading men in Hollywood. They're not conventionally handsome, they're not confident, and they're definitely not athletic. But on closer inspection, we find that despite their status as nerdy outsiders, these guys are still complicit in many of the most destructive aspects of toxic masculinity. It's their status as nerdy nice guys that then lets them off the hook for a wide range of creepy, entitled, and downright sexist behaviors.
You may want to put on slacks.
What? Ew! Stop it! No! Leave me alone!
Howard is the creepy pervert with a heart of gold.
Would you have opened the door if you knew it was me?
Not since I found out the teddy bear you gave me had a webcam in it.
Throughout the first several seasons, he's depicted as a wannabe pickup artist.
Yes, we're here to fix the cable.
He stalks, harasses, objectifies, and tries to trick dozens of women into sleeping with him. Howard talks about women the way a zookeeper might talk about trapping and taming wild animals.
See, first we let the lawyers and the jocks thin the herd, and then we go after the weak and the old and the lame.
Want to pause the video game and help me clean up?
I'm cleaning up. Look at the mess the Joker made of Gotham City.
I want this to feel like my house, too.
Oh, honey, of course it's your house. Why else would you be cleaning it all the time?
Raj is the sensitive guy turned inappropriate drunk. He's the show's token geek of color and is endlessly mocked for being the most effeminate of the four friends. I don't think it's a coincidence that the character most ridiculed for being the most unmanly in a group of men specifically coded to be unmanly is also the only man of color on the show. And as such, Raj fits neatly into Hollywood's long-running tradition of mocking and diminishing the sexuality of Asian men.
I'm very comfortable here. Penny dear, why don't you shoot another silver bullet my way?
Oh my god!
Wait, where are you going? We were doing so well. She never even got to see my penis.
Leonard is the nice guy enabler. He plays the more down-to-earth, normal one of the group. Leonard's character arc is basically the pathetic nice guy who refuses to take no for an answer, and who eventually gets the girl.
How did you get her to go out with you?
Well, she moved in across the hall.
And he started to slowly wear me down.
One of the roles that Leonard plays on the show is as the guy who excuses and enables the sexism of his male friends.
And you know that deep down inside, Howard's a really nice guy.
Cut the crap. You set this up, didn't you?
Yes.
She's a hooker, isn't she?
A prostitute, yes.
You already gave her the money?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sheldon is the innocent bigot. Most of the guys display a general disdain for icky girl stuff, but Sheldon is the one who harbors the most virulent form of casual misogyny.
Tonight's theme, flags of countries that have been torn apart, and the women, I have a feeling, were responsible. My father used to say that a woman is like an egg salad sandwich on a warm Texas day.
What?
Full of eggs and only appealing for a short time.
But when he belittles and devalues women, it's very specifically because they are women.
Thanks to you, I know better than to ask if you're menstruating. And based on your behavior, I don't have to.
All you hear women say is, I'll just have a salad. Where's my lip gloss? I think this element should be called radium.
Oh, I see the confusion here. No, Alex thought I was singling her out. No, I meant that all women are slaves to their biological urges, you know? Yeah, even you.
On television, men's feelings and bruised egos are nearly always depicted as more important than women's comfort or women's safety.
Okay, look, Howard, I just want to apologize.
Time and again, we see the men on the show demeaning women and expressing a casual disdain for anything considered girl stuff.
Sex and the City, yikes.
Hey, I happen to love this movie.
Fine, let's watch it. Maybe all our periods will synchronize.
Anti-feminine attitudes are also connected to the ways that men police each other's presentation of manhood.
Because of your lactose intolerance, you switched over to soy milk. Soy contains estrogen-mimicking compounds. I think your morning Cocoa Puffs are turning you into a hysterical woman.
Just so we're clear, when men insult and belittle other men by calling them women, that is an extension of misogyny.
You're controlling, you're irritating.
There you go again. Nag. You're only proving my point, little lady.
Well, it's done by leaning heavily on a combination of ironic humor and a popular writer's trick known as lampshading. Most of the jokes on The Big Bang Theory, such as they are, revolve around the following ironic hook. Since geeky guys don't fit into the macho mold of what we expect sexism or male entitlement to look like, it's funny to watch them engaging in that type of behavior.
It's anything can happen Thursday. Let's hit the clubs and meet hot women.
Here we go. Lock up your daughters. We're gonna hit it and quit it.
Notice the target of the joke is not the misogynist behavior.
Or we could finish eating and go to the comic book store.
Also a good plan.
Instead, it's making fun of men who are not traditionally masculine enough to believably pull it off.
Hey.
Notice the laughter in this scene stems almost entirely from seeing Howard wearing an apron.
What's with the gloves?
They complete my ensemble. What do you want?
The humor relies on the sexist idea that domestic tasks, like cooking and cleaning, are women's work, and therefore Howard's masculinity is somehow diminished by being forced to clean the house. Now you'd think a bunch of geeks who are regularly derided for being unmanly would be supportive of each other's insecurities. And although there are fleeting moments of compassion between the four friends, they spend much of their time mocking and humiliating each other for not living up to the manhood ideal.
I see you decided to go with pathetic and frightened.
It's one of his best moves.
I'm having female problems.
If you're cranky and retaining water, I have a theory.
I have to talk to her about this.
Geez, why do you girls always want to talk about things?
This may seem a little counterintuitive. Why would nerds who are bullied for not acting manly enough then turn around and replicate that same behavior within their own circles? This hierarchical structure then creates a social system wherein men are encouraged to compete with other men for status and dominance, even within their own peer groups and subcultures.
You want some more?
This is why even men who are bullied for not meeting the hypermasculine ideal often feel the only way they can be seen as real men
Come on, get up! Stay down, bitch!
is by diminishing someone else. All this competitive and anti-feminine behavior is framed by the show as harmless, as good-natured fun, as normal and natural and inevitable for men. But the reality is that the social pressures that society places on men to engage in this hyper-masculine competition is anything but harmless. It can be dangerous for men and for those around them, both in terms of physical health and emotional well-being. So while it's true the message of The Big Bang Theory isn't sexism is super cool,
Relax, no one's gonna be looking at her hair.
I'd argue the implications are much more troubling. because the show's message is more akin to sexism is mostly harmless. There is, sadly, no shortage of real-life examples of men involved in nerdy hobbies or professions who behave exactly like the guys on The Big Bang Theory. And it's not harmless, and it's not adorkable.
Sexual harassment scandals that have been sweeping through Silicon Valley.
60% of women who work in the tech industry have reported unwanted sexual advances.
In its simplest form, it's a torrent of attacks against women.
A frequent problem inside Uber, sexual harassment and sexism.
And it's harmful in all the ways The Big Bang Theory tells us it's not. It's damaging to women. It's damaging to their sense of safety, to their well-being, and to their careers.
Former Google engineer who wrote a 10-page memo criticizing the company's diversity program, saying women lag behind in the tech world because of their biology.
The unnamed Google engineering employee wrote, "Biological causes may explain why we don't see equal representation. Men have a higher drive for status, and women on average have more neuroticism."
If we added a laugh track to that clip, it would be indistinguishable from the casual sexism that we can see on practically any episode of The Big Bang Theory.
The trouble isn't with me, Penny. It's with your gender. And someday scientists will discover that second X chromosome contains nothing but nonsense and twaddle.
On The Big Bang Theory, just like in the real world, women are often leveraged as symbols of status within groups of male friends.
What was that for? To show people when they don't believe me.
Under the narrow constraints of hypermasculinity, the only thing worse than being unable to acquire a woman is being controlled by one.
I downloaded an app that might be helpful in this situation.
There's an unfortunate tendency in our culture to try to pin the blame for men's emasculation on women. But most of the time, the perpetrators are men who are participating in this competition for dominance. And in so doing, they become complicit in the very structures that harm and exclude them. It's really not that difficult to write nerdy male characters who aren't total creeps. There's Abed from the show Community.
You have to understand about Abed. He's usually, adorable weird, like Mork from Mork.
There's Lionel from Dear White People, the TV series. And there's Ben from Parks and Rec.
Presenting the Cones of Dunshire, a brand new gaming experience.
All these characters somehow manage to perform a quirky, awkward, and often humorous form of masculinity without the undercurrent of retrograde sexism. It's long past time for Hollywood writers to retire the adorkable misogynist trope once and for all.